How's it going, everyone? Today I got my hands on this Greddy Differential cover and I wanted to walk you guys through how to install it on your FRS, BRZ, or 86. One of the parts on the FRS or BRZ that is often overlooked when you track your car or push your car hard is the differential, because it can overheat and not function as well as it could when it has proper temperature. So one of the ways that you can help make sure that your differential's temperature does not go beyond its limits is by getting one of these differential covers, because this has additional room for differential fluid, which means that with more oil inside the differential, it'll dissipate the heat in the differential better, which means that it'll keep the temperatures lower when you're on the track. In addition to that, some of the benefits of this cover include the fact that it has these ports right here so that you can mount an external differential cooler, and it also has a port for a temperature sensor so you can keep an eye out for the actual differential temperature instead of just guessing what it might be. I'm going to walk you guys through how to install this. You're going to need a couple of tools beyond what you most likely will have in your garage. The first part is a gasket for the differential. Now you can use a liquid gasket, however the company Difftech does sell a solid gasket for the differential, and the benefits of that are the fact that you don't have to run the liquid gasket and run the chance of not running it properly, and also if you do take this off in the future, you don't have to scrape off the liquid gasket, which is always a pain. So buying that diff gasket is a very good option. In addition to that, you're going to need oil for the differential if you don't plan on reusing the oil that's currently inside the differential. And then lastly, you're going to need a pump to pump the fluid back into the differential once you've drained it all out. So let's go ahead and get started on the install.
So we're going to start off by removing the exhaust to get more access to the differential. Then we're going to open up the drain bolt with a 10mm hex key. Drain out all the fluid. If you're going to reuse the fluid, make sure you put it in a clean container. Otherwise, put it in a container that you can safely dispose of it. Next, go ahead and replace the drain bolt with a new crush washer and torque it to 36.1 foot-pounds. Next, we're going to go ahead and start removing the axles out of the differential. This can be quite difficult, and I find it easiest to do with the horseshoe-shaped axle removal tool. Otherwise, you can use a pry bar. Next, make sure that your handbrake is down and the car is not in gear, and remove all 4 of the 14mm bolts holding the drive shaft to the differential. At this point, we're going to place a jack underneath the differential to make sure that it's supported when we go to lower it. Next, remove all 4 of the bolts holding the sway bar onto the frame. There's 2 on each side. That way we can move around the sway bar to get access to the bolts on the back of the differential. Next, use a 17mm socket to remove all 3 of the bolts on the back of the differential. Here I have the white line bushings installed, but if you don't have them, it doesn't change the install. Double check that your jack is still supporting the differential, and then go ahead and remove both 19mm bolts holding the bottom of the differential to the frame. Now slowly start to lower the differential using the jack. Be mindful of the fact that the axles are still inside the differential and make sure that they're coming out smoothly as you lower it. Remove all 8 of the 14mm bolts holding the differential cover to the differential housing. Next, go ahead and remove whatever gasket is in between the differential cover and the differential housing. Here I have the Difftech gasket in between, so you can see that it peels off very easily and it's not as difficult as if you have the OEM liquid gasket. However, if you have the OEM liquid gasket, this is the time that you're going to need to go ahead and scrape it off as carefully as you can. Make sure that you do as little damage to the surface of the differential housing as you can. Next, go ahead and place either the Difftech solid gasket or the liquid gasket onto the differential housing and then put the differential cover over it. Next, replace all 8 of the 14mm bolts that hold the differential cover to the differential housing. Then you can go ahead and torque them down to 35 foot-pounds. Make sure that you torque them down in a star pattern to make sure that it seals properly. Next, place the differential back onto the jack, put the axles inside their respective holes, and then go ahead and start lifting the differential back into position. Begin remounting the differential, first with the bottom 19mm bolts. I recommend starting by tightening them by hand, and then you can go ahead and replace the 17mm bolts in the back, also starting by tightening them by hand. Torque all 3 of the back bolts to 46 foot-pounds, and then torque the 2 19mm bottom bolts to 70 foot-pounds. Next, replace all 4 of the 14mm bolts holding the drive shaft of the differential and torque them to 54.6 foot-pounds. The only part that I forgot to film is to replace the differential fluid back into the differential using a pump. Make sure that you also replace the fill bolt with a new crush washer and tighten that to 36.1 foot-pounds as well.
So that's going to do it for this install video. As always, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys like it and subscribe to the channel. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And also, if you have any other installs that you'd like to see me perform, you can also leave that in the comments below and I will check them out. Thank you guys so much for watching and have a good one.